with Mike. And later on at 7:30, we have the Masters 4, and we'll be giving you a few announcements in between. But without further ado, we want to welcome Michael tonight to our Fairhaven stage. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Good. Yeah, testing. Brian, we're good? Can everyone hear me? Yes. Awesome, thank you. Yes, you're in the front row. You are special, aren't you? So thank you so much for allowing me just a little bit of time before the real reason you came tonight. So I'm just going to take the best crack at it that I can. Before I start, though, since the last time I was up here was on July 24th, and I want to thank many of you. Number one, for connecting with me in person, talking to me, and giving me your ideas. And number two, just the amount of emails that I've got back and that Ed has got back from you saying, hey, we need to look at this or we need to do that. They're important, and I want to encourage you to continue to do that. So let me just first introduce myself. I'm Michael Van Pelt. I've met some of you. Maybe I haven't met all of you. In my day job, I work for Cardis, which is a faith-based think tank, researching public policy issues and political issues from a Christian perspective. That's what I do. I work out of Hamilton, and I work out of Ottawa, 3 doors down from Parliament. I play at Fairhavens here. My role is chair of the board of directors, and I have a family as well. I actually have a granddaughter, so I am now a seriously old dude. It's just like awesome. 3 children. Andrea is our oldest, Megan, and then my son Kenton. My son Kenton died nearly 10 years ago in July. Obviously, as anyone who has kind of lived in that kind of space, that becomes very much part of your identity into the future. So just I thought I'd share a couple of memories, and these memories nearly kind of rise again as I kind of drive into Fairhavens. I started to go to camp when I was about 10 years of age, and there's 2 memories that just, even at 56 or whatever age I am today, these memories still are alive in my head. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's some psychological problem I have. But the first one was wondering why my feet had a terrible rash after 3 days of sleeping in a tent, never taking my shoes or socks off even to sleep. Imagine the reaction of a Dutch immigrant mom when I came crying. Trust me, it wasn't sympathy. The second one was a little bit more interesting, maybe a little bit more home. The second was the fear of going too close to the seasoned SITER's camp, where all the important people were that really deserved to be there. This was their home, and I was one of the pesky, often frequent transients. I'm not sure if I still am over that fear, but there it is. I'll let that sit, and you can kind of deal with your own space on that. But 2 other memories, maybe a little bit more enduring and maybe a little bit more redemptive. Playing golf at our family camp was how God actually calmed my temper. My prayer 1,000 times, ready to hit the ball, was, Lord, please help me not to lose my temper. And God actually answered that prayer. He did, and I'm very grateful to this day for it. My mother is very grateful for it as well. But more than that, camp introduced me to people outside of my tribe. And they actually loved Jesus. Imagine that. The kingdom of God became this wide expanse of beautifulness and excitement. John, it even included the Mennonites. Believe you me. This set out a trajectory of me engaging a community of faith all across the country in the public life that I now inhabit. That was camp. These experiences lived in the background and generated the intrigue that I felt when John Haltink, many of you met him last time he was here, when he said this, Michael, I'm looking to support a camp where the gospel message is at the heart of the camp and where there's opportunity to grow and strengthen that mission. There are so many children and families who no longer encounter the good news of Jesus Christ in their day-to-day lives. More than that, There are many children and families who do not have the resources, the networks, the supporting communities to build each other up, to comfort when trouble comes their way, to teach us and to model ways to build stable and loving families. Let me sharpen the point here. In short, family camps, like Fair Havens, may be one of the most powerful ways to share the gospel in a life-giving way in an increasingly secular country that has forgotten or never knew of the refreshing and the flourishing love of God. More so, there are so many children and families in difficult social economic settings who could find an attractive community of faith and the unconditional love of Fair Havens. But even more than that, I was reading an academic paper a few weeks ago that was evaluating how the experiences of young leaders who held any kind of staff role at a camp bridged those gifts and experiences into their religious and civic development in their home communities and beyond. Fascinating paper. For sure, it's well documented that faith-filled camp experiences have a strong causal impact on the durability and the vitality of faith commitments of children of Christian families. It's pretty animating to observe research that shows a correlation between camp leadership and its many forms to positive and religious and civic development. Imagine camps like Fair Havens being the most powerful educative and evangelistic energy in society in the future. Wow, what would that look like? Is that really possible? Over the last year, I've had the privilege of spending a lot of time with John Friesen and Ed Heinrich. Both have had significant experience in camp leadership and are thinking deeply about how camps can be powerful means for sharing the gospel in the future. This requires a deep understanding of the cultural trends we're facing. It requires understanding the changing characteristics of families and communities in a secular world. It requires understanding the reality of mental illness, of addictions, of isolation more powerful than ever. The reality of more complicated business models and regulations to run organizations, and the list goes on. I am hopeful that Fair Havens can learn from others, including John and Ed, and I've been delighted to sit at their feet and learn. Tomorrow, Ed is going to share the gospel from Matthew 28, the Great Commission, at the last Sunday service of the year at Fair Havens for 2021. A year that we thought would be normal and that wasn't. But listen to this word that calls us to rise above the challenges and barriers we face. Every time you read it, there's a new piece of this story that comes out. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given me. Therefore, go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely, I am with you always, to the very end of the age." So let me take a little bit of time now just to move to some of the more organizational aspects that I deal with as chair of the board here at Fair Havens. Let me start with kind of articulating and outlining some of the challenges. There is no doubt that COVID has given us a beating, and it still is. And it's not just the financial consequences that are at play here, ladies and gentlemen. There is for sure uncertainty and anxiety inherent in any major organizational change that is happening here at Fair Havens. But this uncertainty has been exacerbated by the incessant regulatory challenges, health risks, legal matters, social conflicts, and even theological confusion that COVID has instigated. In that process, and for other reasons, we have lost some of our key leadership. No doubt, Fair Havens is a gorgeous jewel on the Trent Severn with a powerful history of God's blessing. I was just bringing back today one of the one of the photo albums that I was using as I was doing due diligence for the John Hulting, the philanthropist, and I saw Benita kind of quickly looking through it, and the story after story and story after story. It is a good story. That is true. However, Fair Havens has a very substantial facility and beyond deficit. Our buildings need to be restored and renewed, and new facilities need to be built. We need a new dishwasher. We need upgraded kitchen facilities. We need upgraded sewage systems. We need better hydro infrastructure. We need improved accommodations. We need a new comfort station. We need renovated buildings. Cottages and cabins are all ready to be freshened up, and the list goes on. We need new program vitality in a post-COVID world, and the list goes on. And I know that you can add to that list, and I hope you do. Further, we have operated under strenuous operational budget limits that have limited management ability to reinvest resources into the camp, and for sure have created, imagine a management having to have to live with that stress of fiscal constraint. All that said, it doesn't come close to capturing the real picture. Simply, Fair Havens is brimming with opportunities. And please let me cite 6 foundational reasons that I think warrant the source of that opportunity. Number 1, we are actually in a credible financial position. We don't have any debt. Look across camps all across Ontario, and that's not the story that they're facing. It's a much more challenging story. So there's a blessing in that, number 1. Number 2, we've just received a major $3 million gift to help us renew Fair Havens and reignite our gospel mission. We have somewhere to go with those resources. And 3, no doubt, Fair Havens is a strongly knit community with powerful stories in people all over this province. We have good history. 4th, we have an ideal property close to the whole of the GTA, Southern Ontario as well, 1 hour and 15 minutes away from millions of unchurched friends. We have acreage to grow and to expand. 5th, Fair Havens is a generous community. When COVID hit, what happened? Everyone rallied around and they made sacrifices to make sure that the bills were going to get paid. And they've done that for 80 years. Fair Havens will do that in the future as well. And 6th, most importantly, and I'm fascinated by the power of this, we have a gospel mandate that we can rally around. It's a unifying power that energizes people to love their neighbors and to be willing to make sacrifices to do so. Find me a better raison d'etre. Find me a better raison d'etre. There just isn't one. So let's leverage these gifts into a renewed and exciting future. Moving forward, this coming Wednesday on October 13th, the Board of Directors of Fair Havens will be meeting. It's a major agenda, and you will see that shortly. And I ask if you would just consider putting that meeting into your prayer list as Wednesday comes along. Those meetings, they're technical, they're money, they're all those kind of things that we really don't pray for. But I encourage you to do so. The board meeting. First of all, on the master plan. Last time on July 24th, we actually had our architect, Malcolm Wildeboer, here, and he did a first kind of iteration of how he was envisioning what a master plan could look like. 7 zones, and then thinking in these different zone spaces how it could be developed, what kind of resources we needed, what kind of improvements we needed to make, that kind of stuff. We will be considering another iteration of that master plan at the board meeting. Of course, this plan will continue to develop. In fact, it's an iterative process with lots of feedback mechanisms. It's just not a once and here we go. And that's actually good, because that iterative process makes sure that the listening ear is actually impacting the design of the master plan. And we will continue to share one draft after another of the master plan as we progress. That said, I'm pretty eager to have a solid direction of what a master plan would look like by July of 2022. We need to have a strong sense of where that's going to look like. That's the master plan. But let me just kind of highlight a number of short-term projects. The board will be looking to approve moving ahead on the following projects that can commence right now. If some of you were here the last time, remember there was this tension between, okay, you know what, let's develop a master plan, and that's just a good excuse to do nothing. But that's not what we want to do. Let's develop some short-term plans and activities that can align with the master plan, but that we can get going as soon as possible. And here are some of them that will be considered by the board. Number one, and some of you have seen the design iterations of this. New and further design development will be going to the board as well on Wednesday. So number one is the expansion and development of the Heritage Chapel. Number two is the exterior refitting or complete redesign. It's a gorgeous design if you've seen it. If not, I can get it to you, of the Bill Crump Center. And there will be some minor interior adjustments there as well. Third of all is the reorganization of the Gord Hiscox Maintenance Center, which is also going to include the work for the infrastructure for a new comfort station just outside of the maintenance center area. And fourth, the renewal of the tennis courts. When I came here, I had no idea that already money had been raised to buy the season SITERs for the tennis courts. Well, let's get the job done, ladies and gentlemen. So that is the fourth one. And then the fifth one is a series of multiple smaller projects. What has happened and the cost of budget restraints over a period of time means that some of just the fundamental maintenance obligations get left, and then you have to kind of catch up. And there are multiple projects that would be included in that as well. Those are the ones that are going in front of the board on Wednesday, and I'm really, really hopeful that the board will approve all of them. We'll see about that. Now, let me move to just construction timing. This coming Tuesday, our architect will put out a notice of construction manager expression of interest. This is essentially basically putting out, hello world, we need a really, really good construction manager here. Here's the criteria. You need to understand what Fair Havens is about. You need to have all of the pre-qualifications for a typical construction company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Please, that I've already talked to Ed about that, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of this expression of interest. I'm very eager for you to be able to share that with your communities, and I'll share why in a minute. We would want to commence building permit application and construction this year yet. And here's the challenge we're facing. It's just simply not going to be easy to do that. Number one, in this present market, it's just difficult to find the right company. The right company is the busy company. The qualified company is the qualified company that's got so much work ahead of them that this is going to be a tough judgment call for them to make. Simply, quality firms are busy firms. Secondly, there are real and increasing indications that supply chain issues will not improve but actually get worse. I'm familiar with another project. We're still waiting on windows, and I'm going, redoing the Heritage Chapel. I'm totally excited about the design of the Heritage Chapel, but I'm going, like, how long are we going to have to wait? And supply chain issues are going to become increasingly difficult, obviously, for some of the global difficulties that we're facing right now. And third of all, we're quite concerned about the inflationary pressures on construction that is just simply making everything more expensive by a significant margin. But that is, again, not going to stop us. We're going to try to push through that as hard as we can. So that will be coming up to you. And then finally, on staff leadership, the board of directors will be considering a job description for hiring a new camp director. It's our hope that we can begin a formal executive search process commencing immediately after the board meeting. And it's my expectation that we will end up using the resources of an executive search or consulting company to be able to assist us with that process. And here again, you can help. If you know someone who you think, we'll have a process to judge that, but if you know someone who you think may have the gifts or talents or interest and passion for camps to be the new leader of Fair Havens, come talk to me. Send me a note, send me an email, or give me a quick call on my cell phone. So, it's time to listen to music, ladies and gentlemen. I do when I just a few more comments, and we're going to have a bit of a break. I'd love to meet with you between that break and between 7:30, so know that I'm available for that. But in closing, I just want to challenge you to see the future and its possibilities. Really 4 points. I am eager to hear your constructive criticism. It's easy just to be frustrated and not say anything, or it's easy to say anything and not have thought through it. But I truly am eager, and the board is eager to hear your constructive criticism. And my own organization at Cardis, I always kind of encourage my colleagues that this really means 3 things. Criticize with an understanding that things are usually more complex than you think. Number 2, criticize and share with an orientation toward a solution. So at the same time when you see the problem, give us a little sense of where this problem could be solved. And 3rd, be ready to help. So, I'm eager to hear your constructive criticism. 2, imagine Fair Havens in your head. Imagine Fair Havens 2 years down the road. Imagine Fair Havens 10 years down the road. And imagine Fair Havens a generation down the road. You can put your fingerprints on that story. You today, every single one of you, will, Lord willing, and can put your fingerprints on that story. We are a room here and a community here with tremendous resources. And for some divine reason, which I don't understand, although Scripture orients us toward that, but for some divine reason, when we share and utilize those resources, they do not deplete. They grow. 3rd, very soon the time is coming for you to consider how you can financially invest in Fair Havens. For now, let that prospect reside in the back of your minds. Let it come up in your morning coffee when you're talking together. Let it be part of your prayers. Fair Havens will not be renewed by the support of one, but by the gifts of many. And finally, may God bless you and keep you and make his face shine on you and give you his peace. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. On to the music.
Well, thank you very much, Michael, for those words and encouragement. They're inspiring as we move forward. Now, we are going to have a bit of a break as Masters 4, just in case there are any others coming at 7:30. We just want to be sensitive to that. So we do have a little bit of time here. I just wanted to check with you about this afternoon. Heather gave me this note. Apparently, we had some pumpkin carving this afternoon. Who was all here this afternoon? A few of you? Yeah, maybe 4 of you. That's good. The second one was quite interesting, turkey bowling. I didn't know turkeys could play bowling, but apparently that was one of the activities that Heather was talking about, and a lot of fun. There was crafts and wagon rides, and this is very exciting. They had their first annual golf scramble at Fair Havens, and over $500 came in for our golf course for upkeep. So thank you. That's wonderful. Very good. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a break, and you can move around because we'll be sitting shortly for about an hour and get to move around, make sure there's circulation, rigor mortis doesn't set in. And Michael will be here for the next short little while. So if you'd like to ask him a question specifically, you can do that just off to the side. Right after our music tonight with Masters 4, we have some takeaway snacks. We have coffee and tea and that kind of thing. So if you stay, I think we'll 7:30 till about 8:30, 20 to 9, quarter to 9, somewhere in there we'll be finishing. You'll be able to, there's some very nice cookies back there. I don't think I'll be too close to them. It's to go to Cookies Anonymous this week. Anyways, why don't we take a little bit of a break, and we'll be convening about 7:25. So we're looking at about 23 minutes, okay? So you can relax, and again, Michael's just up here if you want to chat, or if you want to chat with each other, catch up on a little bit of information since summer.